I stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda?
No change.
Call for a motion to adopt, approve the
So
agenda.
moved. Second.
All right, public input. Seeing none, we'll move on. Consider hiring agreement for acquisition services for the 2024 North Water Street project.
I will start that conversation off. So part of the 2024 downtown project, we need to look at hiring a consultant to help us with acquisition services. I've invited Mike Simon, our engineer from McMahon Associates. Mike's on Zoom with us right now, just to kind of help. If there's questions that I can't answer, obviously he's done this quite a bit more with large STP urban projects. So I wanted to kind of have him present to answer any of those questions that you have. But in a nutshell, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, if I do say something incorrect, but one of the things with the downtown project is that, well, I'm going to share my screen here, Mike, because I do have the role. All right, Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we lost Zoom for a second, so we're coming back on. I just gotta make sure we're recording to YouTube as well. Okay, I believe we are. Try this one more time. Mike, can you hear us yet?
Yes, I can.
Every time I try to share the screen, it kicks us out of Zoom for some reason. So I'll just kind of talk about it. But up on the screen, I do have a copy of the roll plot for North Water Street. And one of the things that we need to do is hire a consultant to help us with acquisition services. Two parts of that. Number one, you can kind of look at the screen right here. The public right of way, there's a line. And if you actually go on the street, there's a curb cut in the sidewalk, generally where the property line is. There's about 1 foot to 2 foot-ish of that sidewalk that's actually private property up along the buildings. The rest is the public right of way. So number one, we need to hire a consultant to help us go along and negotiate temporary limited easements with the property owners to allow us and give us permission to basically replace that little bit of sidewalk that's on private property. So that's number one. The second piece, and Mike, I think it's at Lincoln Court. Is that one of the examples where the corner where the sidewalk is? Does that sound
Yes,
right?
we're for curb ramp.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because this is federal funds, we have to do everything to federal specifications and DOT specifications. One of the things is on some of these corners where the curb ramps are, there's not enough room specifically in the right of way where we can put a curb cut and then also have enough room for the transition for ADA accessibility past that curb ramp, if that makes sense. Now, Lincoln Court might change a little bit, for example, because we have the potential of that parking lot, so we might change that a little bit. But there are a couple locations where, I don't know if you can kind of see it here, that we might just need a little bit of corner. You can kind of see this curve right here. In this situation, we would need to have this little piece of property here to have enough elevation to have the ramp come up and then enough room in here to make it ADA accessible. So we would have to hire a consultant to help us negotiate purchasing this little itty bitty piece of property for those curb ramps. The DOT requires us to hire a consultant that's on their list. We've gone out, McMahon on our behalf went out and asked some consultants for some prices on those for that work. In Robert's packet, we did get 2 requests back. One was quite a bit higher than the other. We got one for $84,900 and the second one was for $49,950. Obviously, we're going to recommend the lower of the 2. There might be other things in their process that trigger us to do a little bit more work. And that work, if needed, both consultants were at basically the same price. So the initial cost to do this work would be $49,950. Mike, with that said, is there anything I missed to kind of explain this properly?
I guess the right of way negotiations is broken up into 2 services. There's a DOT keeps a list of approved appraisers and approved right of way negotiators. The Steigerwald have both services in-house. Moss uses a subconsultant, Stero, and that information was provided on his proposal as well. So it'd be actually 2 consultants, but Randy Moss Associates would be the lead consultant.
And you've worked with both already too, correct?
Yes, many times. They work with a lot of municipalities in the area, and usually it's because their fees are a little bit less.
So again, one of those strings attached with federal funding that we have to go through and negotiate these easements and then possibly these acquisition points to make the project up to federal standards, I guess. Any questions?
Do the property owners have to pay for that 2 feet or whatever it is of sidewalk, or if that's going to be the city's?
We were not going to do that as of yet. I mean, the council and the Board of Public Works can talk about that if you want to charge them, but the past practice has been not to charge property owners for sidewalk in the recent past. If the council wants to change that philosophy, so be it. But as of now, we are running on the assumption that you are not going to charge them for that little piece of sidewalk, even though it's private property, but it's part of that project.
So that's actually a little sod section there, that 1.5 feet.
Yeah, yep. And in general, it might not be perfect, but in general, there's a saw mark, a cut mark, or joint where that property line generally is.
Yeah, you'll see a staggered joint. It staggers different buildings. It's out a little further, somewhere and a little closer, but that's generally where that easement line is.
And we definitely want to change that little piece of sidewalk too. You don't want to keep that old sidewalk there and just
Right.
potentially not have it match up. And there's going to be some areas where it's beyond that 1 or 2 foot mark. I can think on the south side, there's a couple of businesses that have like an indent where their door comes back into the building front a little bit. So we'll have to change that as well. Just get those transitions to match nicely. But yeah. And just to let everybody know, so everybody's on the same page. It's tradition that the city has to pay for those temporary limited easements. So we're gonna have to pay those property owners to sign those easements over. The property owners can donate that if they want, if they want to donate that, but it's very typical that we have to pay for them to sign that easement.
And with those being limited easement, Mike, that's something we only acquire for a short period of time during the duration of the construction, correct?
Correct. It's temporary just until, while construction is ongoing. A lot of times if the project goes late, so if there's restoration or anything that may have to wait until the following year to get taken care of, the temporary easement would still be in place the following year for just some punch list items, if for some reason the project runs late.
And Mike, that's another reason why you hire a consultant, because they look at how much right of way that we are acquiring as a temporary limited easement, and they negotiate the price of that, easement based on what is there. So they're doing a lot of that legwork, figuring that out for what the cost would be, right?
Correct. There'll be a sales study done where they'll go through and look at recent sales in the downtown area, comparable properties, and then they'll base their offering price on those values.
We need a motion,
Yes, motion to, let me get back here again.
hire a consultant.
Correct, and we're going to be asking to hire Lawson Associates for the proposed bid of $49,950.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
John? Second,
It seems like an awful big cost just for a foot of sidewalk. Is there a way that they could just do the ones where you need to be ADA compliant or whatever for those, you know what I mean? Like, do you have to do the whole downtown?
Yep.
Or can you just do the areas that need the,
Because we're acquiring that easement just to do the work in front of every building. So it is every building.
that's what I mean, like, it seems like a lot of cost for such a small piece of the sidewalk.
Mhm.
I mean, is there any consideration of just doing the properties that you need to have ADA compliant, sidewalks or whatever? I mean,
That would just be the couple of corners.
right.
Yep, that would, we actually have to purchase that property, here. But to get the temporary limited easement, that would be in front of every single property. So yeah, it's, yep.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems like a whole lot of cost for not a lot of sidewalk.
Mhm.
I don't know. That's just,
When you said pay, you have to pay all 47 property owners? Is that what you meant? Or just where we have to acquire that little sliver?
Correct. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but every single one of the properties, 47 or how many there are, to get them to sign that temporary easement, that foot and a half in front of their property, we have to make them an offer to sign it, correct?
Correct. It's a federal requirement. It's part of the cost of receiving federal funds on the project. And just to clarify, Chad, in case you haven't already, that cost is just the right-of-way negotiations and the appraisals. It does not include the cost of the actual, the money you're going to give the property owners in addition to that.
What was that again?
The 49,000 that is in this proposal, it doesn't include the actual purchase price. That's additional costs that the city would have to undertake.
Correct. That's that 49,000 just to hire the consultant. On top of that, we will be paying money for those easements to those property owners. Because it's a federally funded and federal requirement for that.
I mean, I get it. There's nothing we can do about it, but it seems odd to pay for permission to replace your concrete.
Yep.
Right, to make it look better.
Yeah.
it's not even a lot. I mean, it's like that much in front of my place. I mean, it's.
Right.
Tim, they're gonna pay you
I
to
know,
replace
but
your
it's-
concrete.
I just don't like wasting money.
Mhm.
Just saying.
These are the strings that are attached with a federal grant, even, and I mean, think about this too. In the same boat, it's like, we're going to pay them to get their permission to replace their sidewalk on our city's cost. Yep. The property owner can donate that money back to the city if they want to.
Donate yours,
Yeah. But these are strings attached. And I was thinking, you know what, even if we have to spend, I'm just throwing a number out there, even if we have to spend $300,000 extra in all these things that we have to do for this funding, we're getting 2.9 million. It's worth it 100%. But these are the strings that are attached with grant money.
It's just loops you gotta jump to.
Just seem foolish, I understand.
Any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried unanimous.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
I guess I should probably abstain.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna say
I
you
should
should
probably
abstain.
abstain.
Yep.
All right. Next item, wastewater treatment plant updates. Mr. Ben.
Good afternoon. So the majority of our talk is going to be regarding the rate study. Does anybody have any questions on any of the things I jotted down on the notes? Well, if nobody has any questions, we can get right to the study.
Mhm.
I'll let Judy take over.
All right, I'm just gonna start out some information. I'll just go backwards. Alan, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Yes, again.
Okay, so Alan Briz with us from Johnson Block. He is the CPA, the auditor that completed the sewer rate study for the city of New London. Just to bring you back in history a little bit, and I think Ben had some of this in his notes. We had attended the Board of Public Works meeting. Robert, myself, and Ben have been working a lot with Chad's input on the operational side of that budget. And we had presented to you in detail a lot of the numbers that we were going to provide to the auditor for him to move forward with a rate study. Just to keep in mind that there were some adjustments within our wages. And then he was also going to look at an addition from look at both three employees and then an additional employee of a fourth employee. So that is also in the study. Please know that this information was provided to Alan and he came up with these numbers based on the information we provided to him with your approval. We also did add some main and lateral numbers to these also as time went on and added some dollars to equipment. So those are all the things that are working within this rate study. And like I said, Robert, Ben, and I spent a lot of time looking at that data, working with Alan, and then also with some input with Chad as we went through the process. So with that, I will have Alan present the study that he put together, and then we'll talk about the rates. Unless you, Robert, Chad, or Ben have any comments before he goes through the study.
I'll just pipe in. Alan, we're having problems sharing the screen, so I can try sharing it again, but Zoom is kicking us off if I try sharing it. So I don't know if you're going to go through some things. You might just want to tell me what page you're on and I can mimic it on our screen.
Okay, I was just gonna go through it in general, maybe just describing some of the schedules and taking it from there. So I'll let you know what page I'm referring to. Will that work?
Perfect.
Okay. So I guess I first start out with mentioning the last time you had a sewer rate change. Your fixed charge changed January 1st of this year. That went from $5 to $6 per month. Your last volume charge was in November of 2017. So it's been almost 5 years since you've done anything with your volume charges. As I said, I'll go over the schedules just in general to give you some idea of what each one represents. As Judy mentioned, we did each schedule based on different employee levels. So whenever you see a Schedule A, that would be with your current number of employees. Schedule B would be with one additional employee. So starting with Schedule 1 on page 1, this was the estimate of the annual operation and maintenance expenses. Now again, those came from, we used the actual 2021 expenses. Then we got the next 3 years of budgeted expenses. We did an average, kind of compared that average to actual and came up with an estimate in that estimate column. This kind of is the basis for, the structure of the rest of the rates, because if we change any of these expenses, naturally some of the rates are going to change. One thing you will notice is that in your budget, you budget for capital items. So we pull them out and we include that in the fixed assets or the plant. So when we do calculations on the basis of the plant in service, those numbers are taken into consideration there. Schedule 2, it starts on page 3. That's our computation of the fixed monthly charge. Now, rates vary according to the size of the meter. I guess the theory behind that is the larger meters are more expensive to purchase and maintain. And usually these are the higher users of the system that are probably putting the most cost on your system as far as capacity, chemicals, and so forth. So this rate is meant to cover the fixed costs that occur, that are going to be there no matter what, no matter how much anybody uses, and a portion of the variable expenses. Schedule 3, page 5, that's our computation of the volume charge. So this is meant to cover all the other costs that the fixed charge does not cover, plus an allowance for a certain rate of return on rate base. Now, rate base basically is what you've got into the plant. The rate of return is meant to provide you funds to upgrade the system in the future. So to help you accumulate funds to do that. And also to cover debt service requirements. In the past, the last sewer study you did, the rate of return that was used was 3.5%, which was done, I guess, in 2017. The estimated volume we used in this particular schedule was based on the average of 2020 and 2021 usages. Schedule 4 on page 7. This is a cash flow projection. So I want to take a look at, okay, what we estimate the rates will generate in revenue. Compare that to the estimated costs. We add back non-cash items such as depreciation. And then we subtract out the budgeted capital items, and the debt service. So again, we want to take a look at where your cash flow is at each of these various rates of returns. So we did it at, you can see there, 5%, 4, 3.5, 2, 1, 0.5, and 0%. Schedule 5, that shows the effect on your average customer in each customer class at each of the various rates of return. So just looking at the 5% rate of return, residential customer, an average residential customer would have a 42% increase. Commercial, 144%. Industrial, 84%. Public authority, 272%. I think when you look at that, you also have to take into account the dollar amount. Some of the percentages are high, but you know, what's the dollar amount to an average customer? Schedule 6 on page 13. One thing we're concerned about with sewer rates is that you have a revenue bond out there. There's certain covenants you have to abide by or meet. One of them is that the net revenue before depreciation has to cover your debt service requirement by 1.25. So we picked, I picked there the 3.5% rate of return. As you can see, that more than covers the 1.25% debt service requirement. Schedule 7 on page 14. That's a comparison of proposed rates at the various levels as compared to some of your surrounding communities. Again, those numbers were provided to us by Ben. So that's how the schedules are set up, kind of what they're meant to do. I think your decision as to what rates you might pick. You should be concerned with number one, that the revenues are adequate to cover operation and maintenance expenses plus interest. Number two, that they are providing an adequate rate of return to provide for future plan additions and debt coverage. Number three, that there's sufficient cash flow. Number four, that you're meeting all debt covenants. And last, certainly not least, the effect on your current utility customers. Well, that's just an overview of the schedules and what we did. I guess I'm not sure how much you've had a chance to look at those or what kind of notes Ben had for you, but I was just going to, again, do a general overview of what those schedules represent. Ultimately, you need to make the decision as to what level and what rates you would like to implement. So do I have any questions?
If there's no questions, one thing I did ask Ben to kind of do is make a summary. Because if you look it up in here, I mean, on schedule 7A, you know, there's not a standard what every community does based on fixed cost and variable costs. You can kind of see Wapaka is quite a bit more. Then Clintonville's got a much lower fixed cost, but then their variable cost is quite a bit higher. You know, so everybody's kind of all over the place. So based on what Alan provided here, I asked Ben to put together that in a grid, so you could really look at what a dollar amount would be compared to these other communities. Then I'll kind of have you explain how you're kind of going through here, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay. So basically what I did, kind of like you said, is, nobody is doing everything exactly the same. So we did an average, according to what Alan had, that he based his calculations on. And then we ran it through everybody's calculation. So like for the residential page, which is gonna affect the majority of the citizens, I did a 3 employee and a 4 employee on what it's gonna cost, because the 4th employee is gonna cost roughly $1 or less than $1 more than having 4 employees. So basically what I did is I had the total per month column. I put what the fixed rate will be, and that's your meter charge. And then the variable fee is basically what we're going to have to charge at $3,000 a month, or 3,000 gallons a month. So those are the fees that we get. And then basically I ran like Wapaka's the same way, because they also do a meter charge and a variable fee. And then the same with Clintonville's, Rippon's, Omro's, Seymour's, Shawano's, and Plover's. So that you can look at what we're charging potentially compared to everybody else in the immediate area that has a larger treatment plant. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I would imagine there's some these other cities that are looking at rate increases also.
Yes, as they get their new permits, they're going to have to meet all the new limits that the DNR is imposing. They also are having issues with attracting employees. So, everybody's kind of in the same boat that we are.
And your schedule was at 0%, correct?
Yes.
Just so you know, the rate of return.
So any questions with the study? Anything else? Try to give you information. If there's no questions moving forward, Judy, do we need anything approved tonight, or are we just gonna have an ordinance come forward in the future with the new rates? How do we want to move forward with the results of the study?
That will have to go through ordinance form,
Mhm.
but I would say that there probably should be a motion to go ahead with the fixed rate for 3 or 4 employees and the variable rate at 0% for 3 or 4 employees. So that choice needs to be made so that Ben can move forward putting, or Robert, that ordinance together so it can get approved at the council meeting. So what should that ordinance look like in order for it to be together and put together for the council meeting?
So again, correct me if I'm wrong, we would consider one of these 2 sheets, Schedule 7 with 3 employees with these fixed rates and the 0% variable rate,
Correct.
or Schedule 7A, which includes 4 employees of the plant with this set of fixed rates and this 0% variable rate.
Correct.
So what do you actually want the motion to read?
Obviously, we're going to recommend Schedule 7A because we need employees down in the plant. That's going to help Ben, if there's sickness, if there's employee turnover, just having that 4th employee, help us down in the plant. it's less weekend time. They can rotate more between more bodies with that. So obviously our recommendation is going to be to consider Schedule 7A. But then if you do run with that, it would be a matter of making a motion to approve either moving forward with Schedule 7, which is 3 employees, or Schedule 7A with 4 employees. And we're recommending the 0% rate of return right here.
And if I can add, if we go to 4 employees, once the new employee is up to speed, we plan on utilizing at least 2 employees to run the sewer truck to clean out the sewers and everything. That will relieve some of the stress on the street department so they can address other issues instead of having 2 people doing the sewer cleaning when they could be doing crack filling or brush pickup and all other stuff. Because we do have a limited time that we can actually run the sewer truck when it's nice out, because you don't want to do it when it's freezing out, because it's a slip and fall hazard, especially near a manhole that could possibly go down 20 some feet. So that's one reason why we would, another reason, I guess, why 4 employees would benefit the city more. It would take less stress for or reduce the stress for the street department as well.
You're looking at the 4th employee being able to operate the plant, to go to
Yes.
school, to be an operator.
And at one time we did have 4 employees when Louis was down there.
Yeah, so in 2010, 2011, it was the last time we had 4 employees.
And Judy, was this set up, the numbers we gave Alan, was that set up over 3 years and these costs would remain consistent over 3 years, or would they change over the 3?
They will remain fixed for the 3 years. So they will be consistent for the next 3 years. We've been doing a increase of our fixed charge over the when we did our last sewer rate, because a lot of things happened. So we hit COVID and we didn't want to hit the rate users as quickly. So we did some incremental increases. But this study is based on the same rate for the next 3 years. So in 2025, we will take a look at our next rate study. Because like Ben had mentioned, there are some things that we need to get in with the DNR compliance. So we'll be looking at bonding at that time. And I guess I'm comfortable also with a 0% rate increase because we are fully funding the 4 employees. And I think there'll be some time where there's some training and it won't be at that full capacity to start with. So I feel like we will be able to put away some cash funding dollars through those years, even though we are at 0%. So I feel comfortable with that. And then it only being 3 years from now, we would have the opportunity to take another look at it at that time. Thank you, Robert.
And with the numbers that were incorporated into this rate study that we provided Alan with, like in this year, we had additional funding towards the sewer truck and additional lateral, additional main costs into that schedule that the numbers that he worked with. So it's not solely based off of the 4th employee also for the increase. Was looking ahead.
So I guess we're looking at a motion for 7A, which would be 4 employees.
So move.
I'll second it.
Richie said. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Thank you, Alan.
Matt, thank you.
So we are going to 5 or
Six.
Six.
Six, because actually we included both. All right. Number 6, present the 2023 Public Works budget.
All right, I put together a short slide show here to kind of go over. I grouped together the like admin and supervision on this slide of the budget overview. The 2022 was 279,238. Projected is 291,872, a difference of 12,634. As stated in the notes, most of that cost was incorporated by hiring myself full-time, having that additional employee with benefits, and factoring in the proposed 2.5 wage increase. So that's where it came up with the difference of 4.52%. Are any questions on that one? The next one provides an overview of the operations of the street department that well, the difference of that is 12,530. When you factor in annual proposed wage increase of 2.5 based off of everything that in operations that is pretty much static at this point, our operation costs have remained pretty constant. There's a few variables, but we make up for it in other areas. The little differences that we incur. So over a larger number, that comes out to a difference of 1.59%. Any questions on that one? For the overall street budget, there's a difference of 25,164, which equals 2.36%. That is factoring in a proposed wage of 2.5 increase. There was a little bit of fuel, and along with fuel, diesel fuel, gas, maintenance of the equipment, there was quite an increase in just like your typical oil changes and stuff like that. So there was a increase in that oil cost as well. Do we have any questions on that slide? Okay, the next one, the sanitary maintenance. These numbers were ran off of the numbers provided by Ben, and part of that slide or the display that you had in the last presentation, these were the numbers that were factored into some of that costs. And like I have the notes on there, I'll try to read them off of here. The increase, the money allotted towards main construction and new laterals, increase in capital equipment towards the new sewer truck, and some of the transfer to the general fund. That provided a difference of 48,267 for a 7.28% difference. Is there any questions with this slide?
And I'll just pipe in a little bit that, I mean, this is a direct relationship to our road improvements. I mean, we want to improve the roads, while we have to worry about improving what's underneath the road. So we got to make sure we got all these projects that are coming forward and make sure that we have the funding behind it to do that. New laterals, even though there's a cost in here, we do see the revenue slowly come in because that's assessed. We can assess for the laterals to the private property owner, so that we do have some money coming back with that, with the assessment costs, but not for the mains. We don't currently assess for sanitary mains.
The next one would be the sewage plant. And just like the last slide, this one was also factored in when we gave the numbers to Alan for the rate study. There is a difference of 228,344, which equals 19.95%. That is the addition of the fourth employee fully certified at the wages in the rate study. The increase in the capital equipment for the new sewer truck. Increase in engineering costs for the new plant upgrade. There'll start to be some studies on that this year, correct? Or this coming year. The increase in electric and water costs and also the sludge disposal fees.
Robert, Ben, how long before a new sewer truck we gotta look at replacing?
That will be this coming year,
This year?
23.
And 100% of the cost is in 1 year. It's been a slow savings for that.
There any questions with that one? No. And the last one is the facility maintenance. The difference is 3,782 based off an annual proposed wage increase of 2.5%, which equals a total difference of 1.5 over those numbers. That budget too remains pretty intact with use across the range that we assign the monies to. So it's pretty static at this point. The heating costs and stuff have remained pretty well, and it works in both operating budget and facility maintenance. Were there any questions on that?
Again, this is a work in progress. Now that Robert's kind of done with it, it goes to Judy, and then Judy puts everything together and it keeps on getting refined. So this isn't the last time everything gets looked at. You know, it'll get merged together, and then we gotta, once Judy gets the entire picture put together, then it's a matter of continuing that refine to see how we can get the whole city budget to work.
This is just information. We don't have to vote or nothing.
You don't have to vote right now. This is what Robert will be giving to Judy to put the entire budget together. And then obviously the committee of the whole comes together for a budget workshop in the future. As you guys know, health insurance was awesome this year, so that saved us quite a bit there. Robert's looking and doing some research with vehicle fleet. There might be an option that we want to present, not ready to do any presenting yet, but there's some options we're looking at with fleet, possibly leasing. There's some other communities, Green Bay, La Crosse, Seymour.
There's numerous in Wisconsin that are doing it now, and we want to look into it more for down the road. And that's just fleet vehicles. That's your smaller pickup trucks, like the smaller one the fire department has, if they want to get on board. I've been kind of talking with Chief a little bit on that. They've implemented police squads and stuff like that. So once I got the overview picture of that, and he kind of presented to all of us, want to check into it more with some of these locations that have been using it and see how it's worked for those communities. But anything to save money, I'm all for it. So I'm looking into that.
And this is just the operating budget. So the capital budget Robert will continue to work with staff on developing, and then that'll come through as a capital projects committee. So he doesn't have anything ready for the capital budget quite yet. This is just operating.
I guess if you went to a lease for fleet vehicles instead of buying them, would that go into your capital projects?
Yep.
Okay.
So that wouldn't have touched this budget that
Sure.
you just saw.
I just, something that was interesting.
Yep. So.
Okay, I guess we can move on. Review bid tab and consider contract awarded for Wolf River Avenue redevelopment. Utility reconstruction.
Trying to scroll to it, see who beats me. We had bid opening last Thursday for the utility relocate project. We received 7 bids, which was more than I was expecting. I didn't,
We haven't had 7 bids in a long time, so
Yeah.
this was good. This was awesome.
it was really good. The lowest bid from PTS Contracting out of Green Bay came in at $641,000. And they ran all the way up to $1,004,000. So a majority of them were between 6 and 8, which we were expecting around the 8 to 9 brackets.
Yeah, McMahon was kind of preparing us. And when we started this budget process, that's when inflation started going nuts and nobody knew how the bids were going to be and things. So, I mean, Brad was kind of being conservative and preparing us for that $800,000 to $900,000, price tag. But it just worked out perfect. I think the timing for this, because a lot of these utility contractors need to do their work with the streets on the front end of the construction zone. Now they're getting out of the way so the asphalt people could come in, so they've got time for more projects. So that's why I think you saw a very nice competitive bid process with this, because these contractors are looking for some work at the end of this year now. And this worked out really well. So this is being funded with TID dollars. So like I said, we were looking at that $800,000 to $900,000 price tag, and I think that's what we put in for the TID plan. So that's going to help our TID money nicely, because quite a bit, $100 and some thousand under what we anticipated. So, and with that said, because this is in the TID and tied to that project, timing for this, we needed to get this bid out of the way, have it recommended tonight to council. The council is going to have a council meeting on September 20th. And at that meeting, we're going to ask the council award the contract pending on the sale of the property to SC Swiderski, which right now is scheduled for September 22nd. So you're gonna award the contract, and it's going to be signed pending the close of that sale on the 22nd. So if something happens between the 20th and the 22nd that we don't sell the property with SC Swiderski, the contract won't be signed, the project won't go through, because their project's not going through. We won't collect the TID money to fund this. So we want to make sure that the closing goes through first, per the parameters of the developers agreement, and then proceed with the closing of that property on the 22nd.
What are we actually doing?
We're doing a utility relocate. So,
I know we've got a utility sewer line or something, but that's not in the road, right?
correct. If you give me 1 second, I can bring up the plan sets for that.
Sewer line that needs to be moved is like one of the main arteries. Basically, 2/3 of the city's flow would be going underneath that building. So it's got to be moved over so that they can replace the structure.
It's not actually in Wolf River Avenue, then it's in the,
It's right along the river, basically where that little roadway is. That's where the line's coming through.
This is the old lumber prod.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, they tie in at Wolf River and Shiocton Street down, and then what is the other one that, I'm trying to think of the other
Smith?
stubs, Smith. Smith and the one to the west. Wyman.
So if you look at the property, so this is the property we're gonna sell to SC Swiderski right now. And you can see the sanitary sewer line runs, let me see if I can turn on the aerial. You can see that sanitary sewer line runs where that pavement is right now. But this is the prime location to put buildings for the development. So we will be relocating the sanitary sewer to run through this side or end of the parcel. And this is going to be where their new parking lot is. So if you can imagine a new line going right here, I can bring up the plan sets to kind of show, here's where the new storm, new sanitary, new water line is going to run through basically that southern third of the parcel. But this is going to be their driveway access into the buildings. So we got to relocate that to allow for.
I guess the reason I question it, I knew we had a sewer in the property, but when we're calling it Wolf River Avenue, I'm thinking of the Wolf River Avenue Road. And
Yep.
I didn't know whether we had any work to be done in that road.
Yep. The property is along Wolf River Avenue.
Okay,
So
so we
Has
need,
anybody ever worked with this company that ever been with?
Yes. When we redid lift station 2 on Beacon Avenue by the railroad facility right in front of Hilker, they did the work for that. They did a pretty good job. They were very thorough with what they did, so.
so we'll call for a motion to move that, to do this project to move.
to award the contract to PTS contractors in the amount of $641,000. And we're gonna tie on that pending the sale of the property on September 22nd. If you can make that in your motion.
Pending the sale of the property on September 22nd.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Next thing I see is director's report.
For the director's report, I have no anniversaries to report this month. Work on Avon, Lima and Lion Streets is in the final grade process, and we hope to have asphalt work starting the middle of next week. We had planned to bring in a bid tab and the consideration for a contract award for the coating, anti-slip coating of the fire department garage floor. Unfortunately, out of the 3 people that expressed interest, nobody placed a bid for that. So we're looking into resending that back out. And that is all I have for the director's report.
All right, future agenda items. We'll discuss large item disposal services. Open for discussion. Hearing none, I guess we'll think about it for the next meeting. Call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Who did? Dorsey heard it. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, we're adjourned.
Should we take a 2-minute break to let the room reset?
September Park and Rec meeting to order. Stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda,
No.
for motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make the motion.
John,
I'll second
Ernie second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public input? Seeing none? Ginger,
Okay,
budget.
all right. So, oh,
Done this
How
good.
do I
I'll-
get
I'll
it?
pull it over for you.
how do I get that over?
It's over here.
It's over here.
There you go.
Can you put it on just the slide? Or I guess I can do that part, yeah. Okay, thanks. All right, so I'll start with the Recreation Division. There is a slight increase there. You'll see, we do have a new, a new employee starting to take single insurance, just the small increase in the gasoline and the training. Training is because, I am expecting Morgan to do, her, supervisory certificate with CIVMIC, and that a lot of those classes are down at the CIVMIC training site. So she will have to drive, back and forth to Wauwatosa several times this year. I completed that course. I know Chad completed that course. Jill completed that course, and we're all very proud, and it's great to go through. So, with both of us being actively training, there's quite an increase in training for that, but that line item. In the Parks Department, let me just move forward with mine here too. All right, so with that, it doesn't seem like that big of an increase, the 2%. We are giving our one returning staff, or we'll have 1.5 kind of returning staff, one we just hired. And then we will be hiring another full-time staff. So those are all starting at baseline. Also in the seasonal department, we only have one seasonal staff returning, and he's a first-year employee. So all staff will be starting at that base rate for the Parks Department. Yeah. Then in the pool, just a 1.2 increase there. That is because we are having to cut down a lot of the services because we do not have enough staff to cover them. We will be removing a swim time from the regular schedule because of this, and because of low enrollment in that swim course, or it's just an open swim time. Usually 3 or 4 people come, and it's just not feasible for us to staff. Also, with that being said, the swimming lesson budget is going to be cut quite a bit because of the wage that to teach swimming lessons, you have to have a water safety instructor certification. Jim and Morgan both have that certification to maintain our American Red Cross authorized provider certificate. However, none of our seasonal staff hold that, which would give them a $1 raise. So you kind of see that difference in the operational budget increase there. So someday we would hope to get Jim trained as a WSIT, so water safety instructor trainer. However, it'll cost a lot because we're going to have to take him out of state. The closest ones we found are Minnesota and Missouri. He had to go to Minnesota to teach or to get his lifeguard instructor training this year. So that wiped our budget clean for training for him this year.
Can you just go through the times that the times that you're looking at reducing swimming?
Yeah, so it's actually just a 3-hour swim time on Thursday afternoons. We usually, or Tuesday afternoons. We usually have Thursday afternoons as cleaning during that time. So we're going to just have one person gym at the pool during that time, 1 to 3 p.m. So it's kind of a dead time. Kids are in school. Oftentimes it was 1 or 2 people. The fitness center will still be open. The hot tub will still be open that Jim can watch during that time. So,
But we're struggling with,
right, but we're struggling. His report this week was looking to find a warm body to fill the chair, which is pretty sad. But our case right now at the pool. So
So they don't have any training for lifeguards like out in Green Bay or anything, huh?
lifeguarding is easier than this water safety instructor training. Yeah. There's nowhere in the state right now that's offering it.
so Jim is a lifeguard trainer.
Instructor, yes.
So he can,
Yep.
he can instruct that.
But it's the water safety. The American Red Cross requires, if you're going to use the American Red Cross name on your swimming lessons programs, which I personally believe is very reputable, and I would want us to be offering American Red Cross trainings, you have to have at least one person that's teaching those courses, which Jim and Morgan are actively in the water teaching. So we are able to keep that certification with the Red Cross. But I would prefer that anybody teaching swimming lessons was actually having that certification. But yeah, it's the entire state of Wisconsin is dealing with that right now.
Is it an insurance issue? Is that the biggest thing? or-
Credibility and not necessarily insurance, especially with the fact that we do have 2 on staff right now. So we're okay, but it's not in my mind. I mean, I grew up with it. You know, I've only taught water safety instructor, so some departments in the state are looking at creating their own accreditation swimming lesson program. And there is another one called StarGuard, which is not as reputable and very small. I believe maybe only southern states. I know Texas has it, but like I said, what's better than hearing that your kids are taught by the American Red Cross? So I don't know.
That other training for Jim,
Mhm.
what would that save the city? I mean, I know there's an upfront cost to send him to
Right.
Minnesota or whatever, but what would that save the city? What would he be able to do here with that training?
He
that
would
we're
actually,
Paying out to do now.
he would actually have the potential to bring in a lot of revenue and have people from around the state come to New London and get that class, because there's, like I said, there's agencies all over the state that are searching for this.
So then my question would be if, and Jim wanting to, of course, I don't want to force anybody to do
Right.
anything, but why wouldn't we?
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
would we send him?
Yeah,
And
'Cause-
take the chance of the upfront cost to be able to make more revenue.
right.
It'll pay for itself is what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
so I don't know if we
Hopefully.
can't try to squeeze that into this budget somehow, and
Yeah,
I know this is all proposed. I mean,
Yeah.
if we could figure out a way to do that this year, that would be,
I can for sure get it done in 2023. 2022, it's where it's exhausted already. I do have it planned in this budget.
oh, you have.
Yes.
In 2023, you're sending Jim.
Yep, yep. It's just the staff that don't have the training yet, so.
But with this training, would he be able to train the staff?
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
if
I
I'm
can
hearing this correctly, if he goes and gets his training that is scheduled to happen in 2023,
mhm.
then New London, with him as the instructor, would be able to provide that gap that is missing in the entire state.
At least in the northeast Wisconsin, yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's elusive for sure.
Oh, well, worth sending him then.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Any other questions on the Aquatic and Fitness Center? All right, and that leads us to the senior transit program. This is a really small budget So, it looks like a big difference that, the cost of gas just makes that really skews the perception of that percentage there. There's really nowhere to cut that, but, as proposed with the increase in gasoline, it just looks a lot bigger than it really is. And then at the Washington Center, once again, just a small increase there, based off of wage and benefits. We do have just a part-time supervisor at the facility.
Everything
Is
still
that-
come from Marion?
Is that correct?
Hmm?
I don't see where there's $1,000 difference. 56.
Oh, yeah.
It's like $200 difference.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry about that. Must have copied and pasted wrong. Good catch.
Looking at numbers all day.
Yeah, exactly. This budget. Yeah. But it is just it's just the operational wage increase, so. The food and everything like that's a county thing, so, but they are continuing meals and we'll have full meal site by the end of fall, they said. So by the first of the year.
Does Outagamie County still, they don't have to contribute to the
No, we're just Wapaka County.
back?
Yep.
What are some of
sorry.
what are some of the costs for the Washington Center? I'm just kind of curious what
Sure.
do they provide for the community?
So Lori provides programming throughout the day, all day. She's only there from 8 a.m. to noon, and some days she works at the Chatham Apartments as well. So she's on site all day, but she splits her hours up.
Sure.
Bingo, cards, they get together for birthdays once a month. She does bus trips for them, and that's a huge part of the budget, because our senior programming, which I'll go through in the fee policy, is, minimal revenue based. And then also,
She tries to get the seniors out to all the local events too in
Yeah,
the city.
yep. And the food service, which we don't run the county runs, so.
I guess St. Joe's doesn't offer activities.
No,
Okay.
just to their service, to their facility, which she actually provides for them as well. So oftentimes she can connect the two, but not, especially with COVID, it was strictly separate.
Used to provide the food.
Yeah,
St.
well,
Joe's did at one time.
that position did, yeah. Well,
That also includes all the utilities for the building, for that room,
heating,
heating, electric,
Yeah.
maintenance, all that stuff.
yeah. And then in the Washington Center gym, this is just the programming portion of that facility. So this is your gymnastics and, fitness classes. Morgan has found, so last year, the huge difference here is because last year I had proposed that we were gonna try to do some cheer and tumbling classes in there. We have found that we don't have the time to do that in that facility because it's so busy. And so we did cut some of that meat out of there because of that, because I had increased it quite a bit last year for that reason. So Morgan is also changing her adult leagues from officiated, which your rates are a lot higher, your wages are a lot higher, to unofficiated with just like minimum wage scorekeepers instead of $20 an hour officiants to $7.50 scorekeepers. So you'll see the wage difference there. It's a huge cut, but it's just because we do not have the facility to house as many programs as we'd like there. Any questions there?
And it's harder getting those umpires and referees.
Yeah, yep, yep. And that's, yeah. So this is just an overview of everything. A pretty minimal increase there. Once again, that senior transit service kind of, shouts, but that's the gas prices right now, as we all know, if you drove to work today. And I guess, what else did I have in my notes? Just a lot of new staff in almost all of the divisions. That's evening out that increase in wages. So you're not seeing that 2.5 all around, especially at the pool and the parks. That seasonal wage really shows in those two divisions. So any questions? I am trying, when I have the time, to consider looking for more places to hold programs for Morgan so that Washington Center gym percentage may even out in the recreation division next year. So you may see next year an increase in recreation because we've been able to find a facility to have more programming, which would cost more money in wages. But right now, just ask Chad and April, people are looking for open spaces in the city, just like we are. And the Ignite building was our place, and now we don't have it anymore, so. Any questions?
That it for the budget,
That is it for the budget.
for your fee policy?
Yep. All right. So in the fee policy, you're gonna see a lot of red. Internally, we've been talking about, just, and with you guys, we had the athletic facilities use discussion. The services that we're providing are costing us more money with materials, wages, obviously, utilities, just trying to be more competitive. The big thing that sticks in my mind is rentals, shelter rentals, facility rentals, and the things that we have to do to prepare for them and the things that we have to do to clean up after them. Things like that. So I'm just gonna go through, kind of point out what we've changed and what everything in here is based off of a 10% increase. Most of it is I rounded to the nearest quarter for rentals, facility rentals. I rounded to the nearest dollar just for simplicity. This isn't a new fee. This is just a new policy that wasn't included in here. But we've kind of been trying to do interdepartmentally because we have a hard time nailing down registrations until the Monday of for Camp Hatton. So we like to have those the Wednesday of the week before. So hopefully nailing a late fee that was already included just with that Wednesday of the week before is new. So the first increase you'll see here is the from $90 to $100. I still think that's a killer deal for a non-resident to come in and register and sign up for this on January 1st, and they get resident fees for the entire calendar year. We need to promote that more, I think, to Muckwa, Hortonville, Greenville, just the area around here, because it really is a good deal. Get down into this. So these are just the recreation programming fees. that were increased. You'll just see small increases here, dollar, to, you know, we didn't have a day of registration, fee here, so we bumped that to 20 and 25, to kind of get us some walk-in registrations on that day. General youth programming, these are all just 10%. Something that we did change, that Morgan would like to see is just an officiated and an unofficiated instead of the individual. She's having a hard enough time finding 2 umps or officials for a program. So, you know, perhaps if she is fortunate enough to have an officiated league, she'd be able to hire 1 officiated ump or referee, and then more than likely she will be running those unofficiated leagues with the scorekeepers that I mentioned in the budget. Personal training hasn't increased since its start. So that's just that's a 10% increase across the board. That's a very popular program right now. We have some great instructors, so I do feel like that is going to be a nice revenue base for Morgan. I did not increase the fitness sessions or the drop-in fees. Those are brand new increased wages from 2021. And very reasonable still within the area. Looking mainly at, you know, Clintonville and Iola are both the similar program as us with an indoor aquatic center, indoor fitness classes, same types of classes. And we're a lot cheaper than them.
It's a drop-in fee, just a show.
Yep. You just come and,
Right.
yep. Which a lot of people like. We just, we started that, what was it, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Something like that.
Yeah. Camp Hatton, I did not increase. I feel like these programs are a supplement to daycare in the summer. I think I'd like to keep it reasonable because of the lower income families being able to go to those programs still. And they're a great opportunity for the kids in the summer for a daycare type setting.
You're having trouble getting high school kids and stuff for that?
It wasn't bad this summer for her. She actually, Morgan, I don't know. I feel like kids want to do that. No, I didn't. Or she didn't. Yeah, it was, quite.
I hate to put you on the spot, but how many kids participated in Camp Hatton?
Jane, do you know? I believe she usually, when I was running it, it was between 25 and 40 kids. I think she had around 25 to 30.
I think she had good numbers.
Yeah. Yep.
Very good numbers.
Back to before COVID.
Yes.
And it was the only program that we could run during COVID because it was considered a daycare. It was childcare related. So it was nice. And into swimming lessons, I did do a 10% increase in swimming lessons and it was just increased. But when I looked at the other communities around, we're still, a lot of them are at $40 flat rate. So that's about average with the resident and non-resident fees. And I feel like we do bring in quite a few non-residents. So 33 for residents is giving, you know, our community a fair deal there. Aquasize, I just raised that to be more closer in sync with the fitness classes that are on land. No changes in the senior rates there. Lifeguarding, the cost alone to run these lifeguarding classes, I felt like those, you know, could be bumped up as well. we don't take in a lot of lifeguarding revenue because we hire our staff for free. So we tend to use that as a bargaining tool. Hey, we'll train you for free if you come work for us. We do get the straggler from Waiwiga to work at their pool. But that's basically the only revenue-based lifeguarding that I can think of. The Ys all probably train their own staff too.
And there's a lot more lifeguard instructors like Jim out there.
Yes,
Then
correct.
there are swim lesson instructor trainers.
Correct. Yep.
So that if Jim gets his lifeguard instructor trainer certification,
Mhm.
you'll see a lot more WSIs
Yep.
classes.
Yep. Correct. Yeah, I would say almost every full season facility has their own lifeguard instructor. More just 10% increases here to go with the current trends.
How are we doing with private lessons? Is it pretty popular yet or not?
There are not necessarily waiting lists, but there are names on the board right now that could be taken if we had the instructors. Our process there is if somebody calls and wants a private lesson, we fill out a form that has their name and contact information, and the instructor then will contact that person and say, hey, I'll teach you swimming lessons, come to the pool, and this is what we'll charge you. So it's kind of an additional thing that if the lifeguard wants additional hours, they can come teach. And then for the fitness center fees, raise them 10% as well, across the board. Still very reasonable, still competitive with other facilities. I have I know that it's, I believe, $3 to $7 less than Clintonville and Iola both
For the monthly?
for, yeah, yep. Something else I changed in the fitness room policy is we've had a lot of calls about, can my high school student come and work out in the off season? They're not comfortable working out at the high school or something like that. So I changed the name. I talked to, as long as our parent is signing them up and signing the waiver, they can do that. We don't have any free weights where they could injure themselves or any of the concerns that are had with a minor using the facility, as long as it's waived by the parent. So I had actually a lot of questions about that and wondering if they can come in for the facility. So I don't know if that's really part of the fee policy or not, but it's an internal policy. And then pool rental. These are the ones along with the shelter rental and facility rentals that we did that rounded to the nearest dollar. This is a lot of staff time for these. We do have quite a few rentals around the 51 to 100 mark. Birthday parties are becoming more popular. It's a Sunday afternoon swim that we can use that for. But it's hard to find staff that want to come in on a Sunday afternoon and guard that. Raise the summer membership to 10% as well. one thing that I'm going to bring back to committee someday, hopefully, is this Northeast Aquatics teams, the swim clubs rate. They pay $10 an hour right now, which is considerably less. High school is paying about what we figured out as being the cost of running the facility for that time. And I'm not gonna go to NEAT and say, hey, we're gonna go $10 to $50 an hour, just like that. But I do want to talk with them about the rate. I think that when they see my side of it, they'll kind of understand it. I hope. I've worked with them for many years and have a good open dialogue with them. Just because that's a very important time. It's right after school where we could be generating swimming lesson income, revenue. So there's a lot of, we're providing the lifeguards. And at the time, we thought that, it's a feeder program for our lifeguarding program. Well, then we would like them to, do some of that conversation with their swimmers and, hey, offer this lifeguarding pre-trial during your swim time. And so just have that conversation with them and perhaps bring up a new agreement with them to you guys soon. And then it goes into the facility rates. So this is to rent the facility per hour. You're seeing just $1 or a little bit more. I also am incorporating a non-resident rate into the park shelters. That isn't something that we have did in the past, but now that we're taking their registration on our online system, we know their name and address and phone number. We can determine whether they're a resident or non-resident, so we can start charging them for that. And, it's a lot of staff time that goes into cleaning out those facilities and preparing those facilities for their events. We had a wedding in Hatton Park this weekend and I talked to the bride today and she was very happy with it. But I know that our park staff went there Friday and met with her and made sure that everything was set for her. And Saturday they came to make sure that everything was cleaned up nice for them. So staff time. Any questions on that? That non-resident rate is probably the biggest change I made in this budget, besides all the red that makes it look like it's really a big change. And that's it. I didn't increase boat launch. I didn't increase river rafts, picnic table rental. Any questions on our fee policy at all?
Need a motion to approve the fee schedule?
Yes, please.
I'd look for a motion. Anybody else have any questions on the fee schedule? Now I would look for a motion to approve the 23 fee policy proposal.
I'll make that motion.
A second. Motion made by Bernie, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Did Steve, did he vote?
Aye.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Director's report.
Okay, besides the things that I have listed in my memo, the service anniversaries include Morgan, our recreation supervisor. She's got 4 years. She had 4 years on September 4th. Mike Frieden, he's been with us for 13 years at this senior center running our senior van. And then Pat Guyette, he's our one long timer down at the Parks Department with 8 years in on September 22nd. I guess if you look through all of the updates and projects and notable information, the big thing I'm working on right now, that I don't have included in that is the permitting for the riprap on the Berniger River Walk. Everything seems to be going well with that. It's a process though that I'm learning about, so it's good. Still working with McMahon on the ADA progress at the Hatton Park. They have not been in to look at the bathrooms yet to do those updates, but the accessibility for the playgrounds came through really nicely. It's going to be a lot easier than we thought it was to get that slope down to the playgrounds from the parking and shelter area. With the Hatton Wall, I've been working with Mike Frederick and the Hatton Stadium Foundation. Hopefully those projects can coincide in the spring. If all goes well, we'll be putting our bid packets out to the public together so that hopefully they can kind of see that those are two similar projects. I guess another thing is just that we're hiring. So if you know of anybody that is, planning, wants to be a parks caretaker, or we have unfortunately an administrative assistant position open, and then also a part-time administrative assistant open. So with that being said, I am sad to say that Jane will be leaving us on Friday. But it's a good thing. She's gonna get to go be full-time at the school district, get her summers off, get the full benefits, and get to work with some awesome kiddos. So I'm very proud of you.
And
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. It was good.
Yes.
A good opportunity.
Great to have you leave.
Yeah. I
We'll miss you in the office.
We'll
I-
definitely miss you.
I said, boy, people are gonna really start to think, what kind of manager am I to lose 2 administrative assistants? So just let them know that it's not me.
Hey, don't think that at all. No one. No.
So at 10:30 on Thursday, if you want to come in here, we're gonna have a little coffee clutch for her. If you're interested, just to say farewell. We'll have snacks and treats and things like that. I'm trying to talk her into a evening somewhere on Friday night, but
Nah. Yeah.
Amongst the cars.
And that's all I have.
That's right.
But I know that we do have a committee report, so committee member report.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yep.
Committee member report?
Jim?
Yes.
Thank you.
I got the final cost of what the insurance should be on for Taft Park for the memorial portion of it. And we had given 3 reports on it. One was back in December of 2016, that the value at that time was $63,500. And then on June 1st of 2017, the additions at that time were another $141,000. And we have just completed the picnic table shelter over there, and the cost of that was $11,000. Okay, and that should be everything that we can anticipate at this time. And I've given that information to Ginger. If anybody would like a copy of that, I have them here. So that gets us up to date, and I don't think there's anything that we are anticipating that would change that. The only thing we have left to do as far as getting complete is on the last edition of walls, where we put 4 more of them up. We still haven't got the lights in the ground for those yet. Unfortunately, I'm having a little difficulty with Faith Technologies on getting them. And they can't even right now get me the model numbers. So I can go to somebody else to get them. But Carl Sternhagen was the one that made all the arrangements for it initially on the other walls. And he's given me 4 different dates that he expected the lights to be here, and they're still not. I've been in contact with him again just this past week. And Matheson's has been in contact with them too, because they know each other very well. And he's hoping we will see the lights to sometime this month. And again, he's hoping that there won't be a cost for it. And he has made arrangements for somebody to install them at no cost also. So I don't anticipate there's any further expenses, but I can't guarantee that.
You said
That's
there's,
the only thing we have left.
is
Yes,
there
sir.
footings already underground for the new walls?
Pardon me?
Is there footings already underground for the new walls? The footings?
Yeah, they're in there. Everything is
thought.
there. We did those initially. In fact, the wiring for those lights and the electrical boxes are all in place also for the new walls. All they gotta do is cut some bricks and get them hooked up when it happens. And so it's something that's kind of out of our control right now. We're trying to get the same exact lights, so it would all match up. That's about it. The other thing I want to discuss is transitioning, since we're very, very close to being done with this thing. And we have some deadlines that we have for applications coming in for names in the wall. And that is normally have been October 1st, okay? If they're in our hands by October 1st, the names will get on the walls by Veterans Day, okay? And that's worked out real well. Matheson's putting them on at a cost of $90 a piece to do it, okay? But it's so that's done. What we're going to have to transition to is the new registration forms with our all made.
Yep.
And my plan is to do that right after Memorial Day or Veterans Day, I'm sorry. And we'll put those out to do. And then one other thing that we agreed on back in 2018, I believe it was, is that we will appoint some veterans to get on an ad hoc committee to come in and at least put an annual audit on what's happening with it. And that has not changed, at least at this point in time. So we will do that. And we will get some names back to Ginger when that happens. And I expect that will be the end of the foundation. Okay, we do have some funds that are left. And we are limited as to what we can do with those funds. Everything has to go through a 501c3 or a C19 when we have those funds. And it's going to be somewhere about $25,000 that we're going to have left over. And we have, I'm scheduling a meeting of our organization in the next 2 weeks. And one of the things we discussed at the last meeting is ideas of what we do with those funds. Okay? Initially, I threw in on the first time we set that up, that some funds would be coming to the city. And we will probably be voting on that this next couple of months, sometime in September yet. And that's about it. So if you guys got any questions, after that, it's going to be over to the city, and all they really have to do is when they get the registration forms in, just and get the funds that we agreed that those funds would go into a separate account.
Yep.
Here at the city. And then after the October 1st, when we get you accumulated all the names, just get them over to Masses and Monument. And they have always lived up to getting everything done by Veterans Day. And of course, then they would be invoicing this. You should have enough funds, from the cost for the registration
Mhm.
to get their names on the wall.
Are you thinking of closing out the 501, Wapaka County Natural Resources then?
Yeah, we've had some discussions on that. And I think we're going to leave some funds in there until we got everything wrapped up. But I expect that could possibly go into next year yet.
Because they'll be asking me that question.
Yeah. And we'll give you notice out there for that.
Right.
So
But you have anything else?
that's it. If anybody likes copies of it, I have them here for you if you want.
Get your agenda items in there?
Probably that would be on there. Yep.
Put on the future agenda for guys mowing lawn.
You started doing that. For what? Did you see?
Yeah, I still want it on the agenda.
Trailering mowers.
Oh, okay. Can get that on the future agenda?
Trailering mowers?
Yep.
Entertain an adjournment. Take a motion to adjourn. John made the motion, John made the motion. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Steve.